If you're a young guy just starting in blue collar work and you do not listen to these tips I'm about to give you, you're not going to make it. I'm only joking about that, but I'm Alex. I've been doing blue collar work since I was 14. I'm in my mid 20s now, and I've been doing my trade since I was 18. And these are just a few things I wish somebody told me when I first started. And trust me, I'm still far from knowing it all, but I think these few tips that I'm about to give you are things that anyone across the trades that have been in there for years could agree with. And you might say, Alex, how do you know what you're talking about? You're still a young guy yourself. And to that, I would say, yeah, you're right. But I've been at it for a few years now, and I was in your shoes what felt like yesterday. So who's better to give you advice than me, the guy who literally lived that experience only a few years ago? All right, we're back with a little wardrobe change because it's my day off and I need to get some shit done. Right. Now, the most important thing that you need to know to be successful in the trades is number one, leave your ego at home. Now, if that's already a problem this early into the video, I highly suggest clicking off and finding another video because we're going to be touching on that quite a lot. For any more experienced guys watching this, I'm sure they can tell you there's nothing more frustrating than getting a new guy on site, new guy on your crew, and he starts saying things like, oh, my dad did X, Y, and Z for so many years. I've been helping out. I've been doing this since I was 4 years old. All right, great. Go work with your dad then. Because the reality is, this company and this crew does things a certain way. So it's great that you know how to do these things. It's great that you have some, prior exposure. But the reality is, you're here and you got to learn how to do it the way that everyone else is doing it. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't take any prior knowledge that you had and apply it to your new job. But what that means is, let's see you put that into play. Talk is cheap. Show that you know how to do it. Don't just tell us you know how to do it, because chances are you probably don't. At least not in the way that, you're expected to on whatever crew you're running with, because everyone has their own different ways to do things. And the last thing you want to do is start stepping on toes because you want to do it the way that you know how to do it, if you even know how to do it. That being said, you might not know how to do anything. You might be as green as they come. Number one, I just want to congratulate you for joining the trade side. It's a great opportunity and we're happy to have you. But things might work a little bit differently here than they have in other settings that you've been in. So make sure that you come into this with an open mindset, and you shouldn't have a problem. Always be adapting, always be learning, because blue collar industries and these trades are so quickly moving that if you don't have an open mind, you're going to get left behind. That being said, number two, PMA, for all my punk rock fans, bad brains, positive mental attitude. This is imperative. Anyone can relate to this. You're doing whatever you're doing, and a person comes along and they are just down in the dumps. They're a party pooper. They're just insufferable to be around because they always have a negative attitude. Unfortunately, in the trades and in labor work, there are a lot of people who are already like that. We do not need any more people who are gonna show up on Mondays, pissed off at the world, complaining about this, complaining about that. You might feel that, you might feel all those things, but just suppress it, at least at the beginning, because I'll tell you, if I've got the option of two guys and it's a Monday morning and we all feel like shit, and one guy, he's a seasoned pro, but he is so miserable to be around, and I have another guy and he's a new guy, and he's just a hot body, but he's got a smile on his face, he looks good, he's perked up, guess who I'm gonna pick? You spend, 40 to, in some cases, 80 hours a week doing this job, and you can teach skills and you can teach them what to do, but you can't teach a good attitude. That's something that you have to make the decision on. Number three, show respect to everyone. Now, in these industries, oftentimes the big boss who makes the decisions isn't going to be out in the field with you. And so what does that mean? Well, it means that the people around you are going to be the ones who are responsible for passing along the information about you as a worker to the higher-ups. I know this has been the case at every company that I've worked at. I spend very little time with the guy who hired me, with the guy who signs my paychecks, and I spend 98% of the time with my crew. And at smaller companies, this might not be the case, but if you show respect to everyone, they'll always have something good to say about you when the boss asks. Just be friends with everyone. It's not that difficult. Just be uncontroversial, be in a good mood, be ready to learn, and leave your ego at home. And be coachable. And if you maintain all of those, everyone's going to be willing to work with you, and everyone's going to have something good to say about you, even if you kind of suck at your job. Number four, So this might contradict my last statement, but you got to stand up for yourself. In the blue collar world, there are a lot of ball breakers out there. You got to let some stuff slide, but fire back every once in a while. These guys are trying to get a reaction out of you. Don't get all pissed off and hot headed and blowing steam, but like let them know that you're not a little. They like that. I promise you. It might seem scary or intimidating, but if you have a clever comeback, fire it off. And they might not like it in the moment, but it'll prove to them that you have a spine. Because if you crack back and show some of these rugged old timers you got a spine, subsequently, oftentimes they'll end up respecting you more for it. And make sure you're doing it when it makes sense. If you're getting chewed out for doing some real bullshit, like you actually f***ed up, then just take it like a man. We all make mistakes and learn to accept the mistakes that you've made. Number 5, don't overlook formal education. And what I mean by that is I don't mean going to school or going to college, but there's this big misconception that if you're not good at passing tests or working in the classroom, that the trades are perfect for you. Well, that might be the case in some trades, but I know, at least for myself, for me, in order to progress in my career, there are certifications and licenses that I need to get. And so the sooner that you can accept the fact that you're going to need to do some book work too in order to progress yourself, then the better off you'll be. That doesn't mean you're going to be going to law school or anything. It just means if you think you're in the clear for not having to do tests or anything anymore, you're mistaken. And yes, don't get me wrong, a lot of guys go their entire careers without getting any sort of formal certification or licensure or whatever, but it looks a lot better for you and it helps you make a lot more money. You want to become as much of a professional as you can, and that includes getting licenses. Number 6, become a Swiss Army knife or a Leatherman. What I mean by that is make yourself as useful as possible, right? So in my case, I'm an arborist, and my favorite thing to do is big removals. I love climbing up there on spikes and removing big trees. But the reality is, obviously I do a lot of those, but we also have, pruning, we also have building and house clearance and wire clearance. I'm actually now working as a utility forester now, but you can't just focus on one thing, even if it's what you really like to do. When you're first starting out, you're going to need to be as versatile as possible. So remember versatility, because you might get complacent. You might end up working with one crew that you really love one day, and they might think you're great because you can do all the things that you want to do and you know how to do them. But let's say that crew goes to vacation one week, or the foreman's off to vacation, you get thrown to another crew. Well, guess what? You're going to need to learn how to adapt to that. And you don't want one foreman thinking that you're awesome and one thinking that you're a bozo. Yeah. You want to be able to go wherever you can in the company or in the industry and be able to pick it up quicker than you did when you first started working the job. They're short a man, or because your crew leader's on vacation. Well, guess what? Now you're going to impress the other crew leader because he knows where you came from, and he goes, "Oh, this guy's pretty good at doing that too." And guess what? Just like what I said in step 2, it all ends up going back to the boss. So if the boss asks, "Hey, I was working with fucking so-and-so," they're going to say, "He actually picked it up pretty quickly. He's been paying attention." So it makes you look good, and it just makes you a better worker. You learn how to do more things. Why wouldn't you want to learn how to do that? So don't become too complacent and set in your ways, and make sure to learn more. Make sure to become valuable and diverse. 7, work-life balance. Chances are, if you're watching this, you're probably a young guy. Well, you know what the benefit of being a young guy is? Assuming that you don't have any kids or a wife, you can still go out and have fun. You're young. Don't make this job your entire life. It'll refresh you. Go to that show. All right, yeah, you worked a 12-hour day. You get off at 7 o'clock. Go home, shower, and find the moves. Because you're only young once, and I promise you, you're going to hate yourself for pissing away all the opportunities. And another thing, too, if you don't make time for your friends and people around you, guess what? They're not going to keep inviting you out. So let's say down the road you score another job where you can work less hours. They're not going to hit you up to hang out anymore because you already told them that work is more important to you than they are. This is ultimately, at the end of the day, just a paycheck, and it shouldn't be your entire life, because the people in your life are going to be there hopefully long after this job will. And don't get me wrong, sometimes it's not always easy. I'm not saying, oh yeah, you're always going to feel great. You should always just immediately after work go and do something crazy. But you're young. You can literally function fine off of 2 hours of sleep. So take advantage of that when you can. Go to that show, go to that party, go hang out with your friends, go hang out with your girlfriend. Make sure you're having fun. Yeah, you might be a little sleepy the next day, but as far as your mindset goes, you're going to be totally replenished to start the next day or week at work. Number 8, the most important thing you'll learn is what not to do. Now, that sounds counterintuitive, but when you get to a job site or you get onto a crew and you don't know anything, you're going to feel like you're in this stupor. For like the first few weeks, maybe even month that I started at my job, I didn't know what the hell was going on. I didn't know my ass from my elbow. And that's natural, especially if you come from an environment dissimilar to where you're working now. You're not going to really know what's going on, especially if it's like a dangerous job. You're always worried about if you're going to get killed. Or pay attention to what you shouldn't do, because as soon as you can stop fucking up, the sooner that you'll be able to start learning what you should be doing. And your crew will thank you for it. So as long as you're being productive and staying safe and minding where you are, not standing in the wrong place, not carrying things the wrong way, the more that you'll be apt to learn after that. So make sure you can get that through your head. Where should I be and where shouldn't I be? What should I be doing and what shouldn't I be doing? Sounds simple, but when you actually get out there, it could be a little bit more complicated than that, especially if it's a totally new experience for you. Number 9, safety. Your safety is the number one most important thing at the end of the day. You got to make sure that you're going home to your friends and your family after every shift. And a lot of these old timers, and there are a lot of old timers and a lot of really stubborn, set in their ways guys who refuse to do the bare minimum your job requires in order for you to be safe. Do not listen to them, because I promise you, your boss and the big guy in charge, he wants you to be safe, because ultimately you're a liability, and if you're unsafe, that's his problem. And if your boss doesn't care about safety and he's asking you to do things that you know are wrong, then get the hell out of that company, because he cares more about a paycheck than he does your life, and you can't put a price on your life. I'm going to tell you guys a story. We had this new guy working at the company, and oh my goodness, he was like a walking highlighter, constantly wearing all of his high vis. There was this one time, we used to stop at Cumberland Farms in the morning to get coffee. On one of his first days, the guys on his crew tricked him, and so he gets out of the truck in the Cumberland Farms parking lot, throws his high-vis vest on, throws his chaps on, throws his hard hat, his hearing protection, his eye protection on, starts walking around, setting up cones, making a drop zone and a work zone. And, these guys are clowning on him because we weren't at the job. We were getting coffee at Cumberland Farms. And there was another time where he showed up at a job site. We have cones, and at my job, we need to establish a perimeter and a drop zone so people don't get, random pedestrians don't get struck by. We probably had 25 cones on the truck. He put out all 25 in every place that you could imagine. And oh my goodness, the crew tore him a new one. They never let him live that down. But let me tell you something. I started working at a new company, and I made my way to foreman, and I was tasked with building my own crew. So guess who the first person I was to call? It was that kid, because he was ready to learn, he was aware of his surroundings, and he wanted to be safe and get home at the end of the day. You might think it's cool, you try to fit in, I don't need PPE, I know what I'm doing, blah, blah, blah. Well, you say that until you don't. I wish I could show you, but I've got a scar on my leg from here to here, and I need to go to the emergency room because I dropped the chainsaw in my leg. Now, I did that exact same job probably 100 times before that, and I never thought it would happen to me until it did. So just get ahead of it. It's really not that difficult. Oh, you might think the PPE is uncomfortable. You might think it's, gets in the way. It's a waste of time. Well, you say that, but you know what else is uncomfortable and a waste of time? Having to go to the ICU because you're bleeding out like a son of a bitch because you didn't want to put chaps on. And last, but certainly not least, number 10. Make sure you're taking care of yourself. And what do I mean by that? Well, I'll tell you what I did when I first started working, and this is what you shouldn't do. We'd go to Cumberland Farms every morning, for the guys to grab their coffees, their cigarettes, whatever. A lot of that is junk. A lot of these guys were, and myself included when I first started, a lot of these guys were eating 2 hot dogs, a large coffee with 15 creams and sugars in it, a bag of chips, and then a half pack of Marlboros first thing in the morning. That is junk. Now, I'm not telling you need to go be, an Iron Man or Mr. Olympia or whatever, but what you put into your body truly affects how you feel the rest of the day. And that also goes for, let's say, wherever you were before this, whether that's high school or college or, a different blue-collar job. Chances are you're working a lot harder. Your body's working a lot harder. You might think you don't need breakfast and lunch, because I didn't eat breakfast and lunch for the longest time when I first started, but try bringing like a relatively healthy breakfast and lunch, or getting something relatively healthy for a while. You're really going to notice a difference. Your energy is going to go up. You're going to feel a lot better. You're not going to be so lethargic and slouchy. You're going to feel alert and there and ready to work. And that is the most important thing if you want to progress. And there are a lot of guys who are going to tell you that's bullshit. Oh, you fucking, I only eat one meal every day when I get home. I've been smoking for so long, blah, blah, blah. All right, well, I'm not going to discredit the coffee and the nicotine. Those two substances are what 99% of the trade runs on. But instead of drinking a Red Bull or, a loaded Frappuccino every single morning, try getting a black coffee, or at least a sugar-free Red Bull. And instead of ripping a bunch of butts, hey, maybe switch to some Zins or something, just because you will feel like shit. You are what you eat, you are what you smoke, you're going to feel like shit. You spend so many hours a week here each week. Why would you want to feel like shit? You want to feel as best as you can. So that's my 10. But if you stuck around long enough, here are a few things that I don't necessarily think made the cut, but I think are honorable mentions. So I guess this is 11. Look good, feel good, work good. You are 100% judged on your appearance. And that doesn't mean you have to be a model or anything. Do your laundry and dress nice to work. You don't want to be the guy who shows up onto the job site smelling like shit with his ripped up, tattered pants halfway down his ass, with his stained shirt with boogers and stains on it. You're not going to get the respect that you deserve. People, and it sucks, maybe it's not right, but people honestly do judge you based off of your appearance. Even at work, even with all these, rugged fucking maniac dudes around you, they're going to judge you, and you want to be the best. You want to look as good as you can. Show people that you care about yourself, because until you can respect yourself, others can't respect you. All right, number 12. This is my second honorable mention. Yes, you got to work hard. It is very important to work hard. But what's also important is that you have a brain on you, and you don't need to be a genius. And that doesn't mean you don't have to work hard. But there have been some jobs where I see the guy and he's busting his ass. He's sweating, he's moving, he's carrying heavy things. And it's like, well, ask yourself, is there an easier way to do this that we have access to? And for instance, we did 6 big removals down in this ravine, and we needed to get the wood out. And so we had this one kid working for us, and he was, climbing down to the bottom of the hill and humping up logs all the way up the hill, these 150-pound logs just over and over again. And I had to stop, and I had to be like, buddy, we have a winch. We can throw the winch around it and pull it up. So yes, it is important to work hard, but if you're not taking advantage of the resources that we have to make the job easier, you're going to look like an idiot. And if you look like an idiot, you're not going to progress. You want people to think that you're smart, competent, and a hard worker. But yeah, guys, that's it for this video. I just want to say, I've only been living this life for less than a decade now, and I know I'm still young, and I know there are a lot of things that I don't know what to do. So if you have any problems with that, go ahead and leave them down in the comments. Or if there are any other things that you think that I should have added, leave them in the comments. Ultimately, we're just trying to help these new guys break into the trade a little bit. And to the new guys, if you've stuck this long through the video, we're happy to have you. I might say a few things that might have rubbed you the wrong way, hopefully not. But if I did, just realize that the majority of people are willing to teach you. Not too many people are preying on your downfall. People want to see you succeed. We have to give them a reason to want to see you succeed. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you haven't already, if you would just do me a huge favor and please like the video and subscribe. I'm just trying to get this channel off the ground, get the wheels rolling a little bit. So it's the small things like that that really help. Awesome. Thank you. Have a good day and good luck and be safe out there.